And we're back for another episode of City of Champions. I'm your host, Shane Fennessy, and today my guest is Canadian gold medalist figure skater Jamie Salé. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, but Shane, I don't know the first thing about figure skating. Fear not, I don't either. But I have Jamie break it down for us beginners. Now, Jamie, along with her skating partner David Pelche, were, always will be, two of Canada's most adored Olympic athletes. Jamie has first place finishes in, I'm going to try and get through all of these, a World Championship, 2 consecutive 4-continent championships, 2 consecutive Grand Prix finals, 3 consecutive Canadian championships, and of course, a gold medal at the 2002 Salt Lake City Winter Olympics. Now, in addition to being a fierce competitor, Jamie also happens to be one of the sweetest people I've had the pleasure of meeting. In the episode, we talk about competing at the highest level and not only the physical preparation, but the psychological coaching often required as well. Of course, we discuss the infamous 2002 gold medal controversy and the gong show that ensued for Jamie and David, along with their Russian rivals. We also talk about life after skating, her work with the Special Olympics, and her greatest achievement to date, of course, motherhood. I had such a blast chatting with Jamie. 1 hour wasn't nearly long enough, but I can confidently say part 2 is in the works. Now, enough rambling from me. Please enjoy my conversation with Jamie Salé. All right, we're live, sitting here with Jamie Salé. You still go by Salé?
Salé.
Yeah? How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me in your lovely home, sitting here with your dog Cooper.
Well, thanks for making it convenient for me.
Hey, no problem. That's what I strive for. As I've been researching you over the last couple weeks, I've discovered that an hour-long podcast is not nearly enough to talk about all the amazing things you've done in your life.
It's boring. It's boring stories.
Yeah, well, I will let the audience be the judge of that. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start with the origin story.
Okay.
Who you were as a person, where you grew up, what got you into skating. Let's go there.
Okay. Well, I was born in Calgary. My parents, both parents, are from up north in Athabasca, and they moved to Calgary for work. And my brother and I were both born there, and I moved to Red Deer when I was 1. So I don't really remember Calgary at all. I ended up staying in Red Deer until the end of grade 9, and that's where my skating career began at a very young age, skating with my dad and my brother out in the outdoor rinks with my little bob skates. Yeah.
Now I read that your mom, when you turned 7, made you decide between skating and gymnastics.
Yeah, so what happened was at skating and can skate, and then gymnastics, it's kind of the same thing where you're learning how to do things. And my mom went to register me in the fall, and they both said, well, we'd like her to be in these certain lessons. And so she literally looked at me at the gym and said, you need to make a decision. You have to pick skating or gymnastics. And I said, I want to skate. And she said, no, we can go home and we can talk about this. And I said, no, I want to skate. And I couldn't honestly tell you exactly what was on my mind or why I was so adamant about skating. I think it was really just that I had more of, I was talking about when I skated, I had freedom. I loved being artistic, and I loved, not the word dancing kind of bugs me, but skating to music on ice.
Right.
Or dancing on ice, right? And I always loved that, and I used to pretend that other people's programs were my programs, and I would make up my own routines, their music, and so I think that's why I chose skating. It was just the music really was such a big part of my life.
Right. So it was a little bit more creative, artistic than gymnastics.
Yeah. I think, being 5'1", I would have been okay in gymnastics too. They're all, and I'm built like a gymnast, but I think, definitely music had a big part of it. I know that there's music in gymnastics too, but yeah, I just felt free skating, and maybe it's just the genetic part too, that my dad played hockey and brother was hockey. And
well, we're a Canadian people. Exactly. We're winter sports people.
Skating, yeah.
Do you ever, with your success, it's obviously difficult to think back on had things gone differently, but do you ever think about what if I pursued gymnastics? You know what?
No. I think injuries can be, well, they can be bad in anything. But I have to be really honest. Like, I know I picked the right sport for the pro career.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously you have a great pro career when you're a champion and you do well in what you're doing, but there's not a lot of sports that have a pro career. After amateur, you either go into coaching or public speaking, whereas skating, I had a vehicle that took us on the road for 10 years.
Right.
So, and I made a good living doing it.
Yeah. But that wasn't all part of the decision when you were 7. That was just,
no.
I love music and I love to move.
And I like movement and I loved my coach.
But it's amazing that love of it and that decision carried you through for so many years.
I know. I just, you know what? I really loved it. Like I used to count the hours or minutes even at the end of school when I could, because I would walk over to the rink. Being in Red Deer, I usually skated right by my school, or it was a short drive, but I would be counting the minutes until I could be on the ice, and I just loved it. Yeah, I don't remember ever. The only thing I didn't love was the 5:30 wake ups for 6:30 patch is what we called it. The figures that we used to do, that was really boring, and the rinks were cold at that hour.
What does that mean?
But
the 6:30 patch?
Well, we used to go on the ice and do these figure eights.
Just solid for an hour at a time?
Well, I was about 45 minutes, and then we'd go into free skate.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest part about being a little skater, was those cold early mornings, and I think I only did that twice a week. I do not miss that at all.
Right.
And I'm lucky that my kids haven't had to do that yet. But no, like I just loved it. I couldn't wait to get on the ice, and I couldn't wait to practice my new jumps or whatever. And just for me, it was also about showing off.
Yeah.
I loved when I had my mom there to watch, or someone was there to watch, and I would be like, watch me, watch me.
Right.
I've always been into performing.
Yeah. So is it more the performance or the competition aspect?
I'd say more performance.
Yeah.
But competing has always kind of been in my blood.
Yeah.
I like, and it's not always, of course we all like to win. We all want to win. But there's a thrill. There's a feeling that you get of a sense of accomplishment, or even when you don't do as well. I remember I've had such good role models in my life, and people that coached me properly and said, what did you learn from this competition, coming 10th or 12th or 15th, whatever. What did you learn from this? We didn't work quite hard enough on that part of your program, or maybe you've been taking it easy too much and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, or whatever. And so it was all about learning experiences. Even when you do win, or you come back from a competition with a medal, how can I be better?
Yeah.
And that's what I was always telling myself. What can I do differently? How can I be even better?
Right. Well, yeah, the saying goes, you either win or you learn.
Right.
The only time you really lose is when you consider yourself having lost.
I agree, totally. I always say that when I speak. You're only a loser if you choose to stay down when you fall.
Yeah.
But if you get back up and you learn from that, that's the best thing, and that's how we grow as individuals and as athletes. So
then you grew up in Red Deer, and then you moved to, did you come straight to Edmonton?
I came to Edmonton for high school, so I went to Rush Up.
Okay.
And had a great 3 years in high school, 3.5 actually. I had to do extra because I went to the Olympics in grade 11.
Yeah, Lillehammer, Norway.
Lillehammer, Norway. It was such an awesome Olympics, and I was 16. And
was that just like overwhelming for you, or did like the performer in you just think it was fantastic? Were you nervous?
So, and actually the best part about this was that the nationals for qualifying for those games was here in Edmonton.
Oh, so the hometown advantage.
Hometown. Yeah. It was really fun, and we came third, which was great. There were no expectations of us even being first or second. That's when Brewster and Eisler were still competing. So naturally they were winning, and they were going to be going for a medal at the Olympics. So second was even a bit of a far cry for that. Like, it would have been almost impossible. So third, we were just happy to get that last spot. So I went to the games with no pressure. I was 16 years old, totally like the second youngest Olympian there. Yeah. And
you're just happy to be
there. Took it all in. Like total Canadian, just happy to be there. Yeah. I always cringe when I hear Canadian athletes on TV going, I'm just happy to be here. I had a really good time. I'm like, come on, just say you came to win just once. Come on.
So at that point, what was the discipline you were competing in? Was that pairs?
That was pairs.
Okay, so for my admittedly lack of knowledge of the skating world, and for the audiences presumably, but we wanted this to be a teaching, learning experience. Yeah. So explain sort of the main disciplines and how they differ from one another. So
everybody starts off with doing singles.
Okay.
And single skating, and then you learn how to skate, and then typically you fall into it, whether it's ice dance or pairs. Yeah. Or you continue on in singles. I actually did both for a long time. So I went to Lillehammer as a pair skater, which I started when I was 12 years old with my first partner, Jason. And then, but I continued in singles still, but I wasn't at the same level. So I was senior pairs. To go to the Olympics, you have to be senior, which is the highest.
Right.
I think at that point I was still junior ladies. Yeah, and I came third actually in junior ladies here in Edmonton that year.
Okay.
So I went to Junior Worlds, I think, after that, but not I think. I know I did. I know. I have a really bad memory. And
we can pull it all up online later.
Yeah, pull up Wikipedia. It's not always right. But so I had a singles career until shortly after the Olympics. My partner and I ended up ending that partnership. Yeah. And I continued on doing singles for 3 years until I met David. Right. So David actually competed in singles and pairs for a long time at senior level. Okay.
So he was like far more experienced than you when you guys came together.
No, not far more. I went to an Olympics and he had not.
Okay, so you'd reached a higher level.
World Championship. Yeah. And he was actually alternate in the men's event for Worlds as well. Like he was a strong single skater. But I went to Olympics.
Okay. Right. What'd you place at that Olympics?
We were 10th or 12th. Oh my gosh, we got to look that up too.
I think it was 12th.
No, it was 10th.
Was it 10th?
12th, you're right. And 12th. Then 16th at Worlds.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's the difference between pairs and ice dancing?
Okay, so pairs is way more fun.
Okay. That makes sense that you would say that.
Yeah, I don't have a biased opinion at all.
Yeah.
No, so pairs, for people that are watching, I'll start with ice dancing. It is literally ballroom dancing on the ice. They're allowed to do some pair things now. They do some spins together, they do some lifts. They have rules though that they can't put the girl completely over their head. Okay. I'm not actually up on the rules per se, but
does it change often or is it pretty like traditional?
I think it's general. I think it is pretty traditional, but they have allowed more things that they didn't allow when I skated. Okay. Like the rules have changed. The system changed after our Olympics. Yeah. Yes, it's our fault. No, it's not our fault.
We'll get to that.
So I'm not really up on that, but whereas pair skating, it's all we do individual stuff. We do big jumps. And we do throws and twists and lifts that cover the ice. We do minimal ice dancing. They're always connected, right? And it's all about their footwork and the intricacy between them and their feet and stuff. Whereas pair skating has more freedom. You could put it side by side and you'd see a big difference. Right. Yeah, I've watched both. More thrilling to watch pairs because of the exciting
it's more technical,
tricks.
Right? Like
ice dance is very technical in what they're doing. But for someone who's not a skating fan, they might find ice dance less appealing to watch, only because it's not as exciting, it's not as thrilling, it's not as wow. Yeah. But for figure skating fans, you can appreciate really good ice dance because, like Virtue and Moyer, they're beautiful to watch. Right. Yeah.
So, watching the pairs, watching you and David, because those are the majority of the clips out there, it looks like you guys are so in sync that you could have almost done those routines with your eyes closed. Is that right?
Yes, that's how good I was. You know what? Actually, it's funny you say that because when we first tried out, I was so in shock or awe of how everything felt so easy. We would literally do a side-by-side spin and it would be on. I remember when he picked me up in a lift, I went, oh my gosh, you make me feel like I'm a feather. And it was just so easy. We did a pair spin and we weren't like... It wasn't like mumble jumble. It was really simple and it felt natural. And I remember the first time we competed even, he put his hand out without looking at me. He just kind of put his hand out and I did it at the same time and we nailed it, like hand in hand. Perfect. And it just seemed like we were born to skate together. Yeah. It really did.
The instant chemistry.
Yes.
But what I was wondering watching is that, do you have a move that's timed perfectly with the beat of the music?
Yes.
Or is there wiggle room? Like if you kind of fall behind, you catch up? Like where's
That's a good question. That's a really good question. So we do choreograph our programs to certain beats of the music. There's always going to be misses. There's a fall or a slip or even you get a little bit behind, whatever the reason is. And we know where to catch up. Yeah. It's just a trained thing. Right. But you always know where you're supposed to be on the music. So if you do fall in a jump or something happens in a spin, you just try to do your best to get to that place where you know you need to be.
Was there anything in particular that you struggled with in your career? Any particular move?
Yes. Especially for some reason, when I started skating with David, I moved to Montreal and we had a new coach for both of us. And for some reason, I kind of lost my confidence in jumping. I wasn't really the strongest jumper per se in singles, but I never had this fear of it. And then when I moved to Montreal, they really focused on, our coach then really focused on the jumps for some reason, and when there was so much more other things for us to really be trying to perfect and improve. And I just developed this fear of it, and then I started missing it more often. So when we were competing from the very beginning, I would always miss one jump or two jumps, and then the commentators would start talking about it. Well, gee, you know, I remember going into my first jump, side-by-side jump in Nice Worlds, and I could hear the commentators talking. And I'm
really?
Like,
is that usual?
That's not usual, and that was so me not being in the moment of concentrating on what I was supposed to be doing, but I'll never forget that. I'll never forget hearing their voices and thinking they must, here comes the side-by-side triple jump, and this has always been a problem for Jamie. Will she do it today? You know, and even when I was interviewed, they would always bring it up. Well, you know, at nationals you missed the side-by-side triple toed. How is that work going for you now? And they keep it in your head. Yeah. So I'd go home, and I ended up going to a psychologist over it because I said, what is wrong with me? I have never had a problem with jumping, and now I have this major fear. So I had to do a lot of self-talk and work on that. And it was hard for David to understand because he always thought I was just this strong, mighty mouse that didn't have any problems. And I said, no, I actually legitimately have a fear right now, and it's freaking me out, and it's consuming me. And I'm literally paralyzed every day when I'm training. And if we want to fix this and move on, we're going into the World Championships here in Vancouver right before the Olympic Games, and I don't want this to come back and haunt me. So, you know, I always tell people that, like, everybody's got fears in life, whether it's in your sport or your job, and I always say you got to attack it. Don't ignore it and don't pretend it doesn't exist. There's nothing wrong with being afraid of things, but you got to work through it.
Right. So things we want to do the least that are the most important for us to do, right?
Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
Work through stuff. And it's not fun, but I will tell you, it pays off, and man, does it feel good. Like, I remember getting to Vancouver and thinking, you know what? Yeah, everybody, you know, take it, because you guys have all been... you know, saying, oh, we don't believe in her, or, you know, she's not ever going to be a good jumper or something, you know. I'd hear little comments here
little
and there,
chirps
and
here and there,
it would bother me. And then so we won Worlds, and it wasn't flawless, but it was better.
So what strategies did you employ? How did you fix it? Like, first of all, from the psychological standpoint, what did you start doing and implementing, and then technically training? What did you do? Was it just repetition?
It was hard. Like, it was hard because, you know, it's time management too. I mean, I had to work on my head. But I literally had to go into my jumps on my free skate sessions where I work on my jumps by myself. I had to literally out loud say, when I'd have my negative thoughts, I had to out loud say, stop, stop, stop. And here I am with speed going into a jump, and I'm not yelling, but stop, stop, stop. And I had to tell my coach, this is what I have to do. This is what the psychologists want. I don't care if you guys think this is weird, but this is what I have to do. And I got to be honest, it really worked. It was a little bit out there for some people watching me maybe, but it worked. And I just learned to shut off the negativity. And then I will say it took months. It wasn't quick. It took months of persevering through that uncomfortable period. And one day it just clicked. And I remember landing a jump going, oh my gosh, I never had a negative thought going to that. And then I said, see? And it happens once, and then you gain more confidence. And then really what did it though was coming back to Edmonton for the Olympic year when I was with my coach that I had here in Edmonton. And he was such a great technician, but he also never focused on that jump that I kept missing, or the jumps that I kept missing. And he was like, this isn't a problem for you. So as soon as he said that to me, I didn't feel so scared too, right?
Right.
So I realized that it was the way I was also being talked to. And it wasn't so much that it was really negative, it just wasn't the right talk.
Right.
It wasn't reinforcing what I need to think about. It wasn't reinforcing that I'm confident. And whereas it was like, okay, well, we got to do this over and over again so that you don't keep doing that.
Right.
So
that's part of being a good coach is knowing what your athlete needs to hear, right? Because everyone reacts differently. Some people need that authoritative drill sergeant, like, sir, yes, sir, I'll do better next time. Yeah. But some people need you'll get it next time.
Well, and David works very differently. He works with, well, when he's mad and when his coach gets tough on him, he actually somehow gets fire in his butt, and he he's fine. Whereas I crumble.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's a male versus female thing, or is that just an individual thing?
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be like the testosterone thing, and that he's just. But I also know my son is actually more like me. He's more sensitive, and he needs the positive reinforcement versus the come on, you need to do this and let's go and get tough on him. Like he'll kind of like whimper in a little bit. Like he feels a little more nervous when you get hard on him about stuff. Whereas David's the opposite.
Right. But I think that comes with age too, right? Yeah. As you get older and more experienced and have more success, then you're more confident. Then you have more of a base to kind of guard against that.
I still need the rubbing on the shoulder. You're doing great, Jamie. You're doing great. I still need that. I'm not great with negativity or just toughness. Like I don't mind the coach saying to me, even at the end, I didn't mind saying like, you know what? You're better than this.
Right.
You can do this. Like just the tough talk, but I can't handle the just any kind of negative or aggressiveness.
Right. So pattern interruption seemed like it was a really important part of overcoming that mental block.
Yeah.
Now when it came to various injuries, of which you had many, right?
Yeah.
Was it similar?
When was my injury?
Was it similar in overcoming those? It's just like, look, I know my body's going to heal and I know I can do this. What was the strategy there?
Well, I'll tell you the hardest injury I ever had. It was right when I was doing singles, and I mean I've had many injuries. We've had many setbacks. I can talk about a couple of them, but the worst one for me was it was in the 3 years where I was just doing singles, and I was trying to stay seen. I was trying to be on the scene, which is at nationals, so that I could find a new partner. And I'd heard, there's a guy here, there's a guy there, there's a guy there, but there was never, my coach and I said, like, I've already been to the Olympics. I don't need just a pair partner. I want to have a partner that can take me to the top.
Right.
So we were waiting for that, right? And in the meantime, between time, I was struggling at home and I wasn't happy doing singles. I had personal issues and family issues, and which everybody does in life. But I struggled. Yeah. I was really struggling. And I had a trainer here in Edmonton named Jeff Crushell, who was my angel, honestly. Like he's still in my life. He's a very, very good friend, and he talks about it in a book that he's written about an athlete, and he doesn't mention my name, and it's amazing to read back because I'm like, Jeff, that's really what it was, because he was a part of that struggle. He's one of the reasons, or he's actually one of the main people in my life that encouraged me to keep going. He believed in me. He saw potential. He's like, I know she's capable. And he tried to work with me off ice, but I was just the second year I didn't make it to nationals was the most devastating for me, because now you've missed 1 year of not being seen. Everyone's going to forget about you. And then I was even hearing like from coaches that were saying she should just quit and she's washed up now, and people that are close to you, people that I trusted. And that was really hurtful. It was like having a knife in your heart, right? And I wasn't ready yet. I think I still had a little bit of that fire burning in my belly, and I just wanted more. I wasn't done yet. Yeah. So to hear people that were a part of my life, intimately coaching me or around me just day to day, to hear that some people weren't believing in me was hard. But Jeff was like, he was just my strength. And he said to me after we had a meeting one day, I said, Jeff, I can't do this. Like, I'm injured too much. I've got a stress fracture. I'm missing my second nationals. People aren't believing in me. Financially, I don't know if we can continue to do this. And he went home and he said, he talked to his wife, and he came back to me the next day. He goes, I have a plan. And he literally got me back on the ice to make it to nationals the next year. And that was when I saw David. And I wasn't the best, but it was just, again, being seen and seeing David, because I had already tried out with David in 1996.
Yeah.
And I quit with Jason in 94. So not having that, the tryout was successful, but he ended up choosing someone else. And so that was really hard. So sitting back another year and a half was really hard. So when I saw him again at nationals, and I said, Dave, we can't, and he wasn't in a great place either. And I said, we can't let this go anymore. Like, come on. Yeah. Like, that tryout was so great. Can we please just do this again? And so the rest is history. But that actual injury in 90, that would have been in 97, I guess, was horrible. Horrible. But we had another major one when I first moved to Montreal. Well, two actually. David hurt his back skiing. We made it to nationals. We were so pumped. Brand new team together. He went skiing at Christmas and hurt his back, or snowboarding.
Yeah,
hurt his back.
Oh boy.
We got through nationals, and qualified for Worlds, but we couldn't go to Worlds. His back was so bad, so that was pretty devastating as well. And then, rewinding a little bit, when I first moved to Montreal and we started skating together, we were just on a roll. So we were having fun and we were learning quickly, and it was easy. It was amazing. And next thing I knew, every day I was getting this pain, more and more pain in my Achilles tendon. I ended up having surgery to remove some scar tissue that had built up in the back, and I was off for 3 months. So that was how we started. Then we got on a roll again, and then he hurt his back.
So a lot of highs and lows, peaks and valleys.
Big time. And it was just like, and I remember thinking after that first year going, okay, how can something so good just not be working out? Like, did I make the right decision? I moved all the way to Montreal, away from my family. Is this going to be okay? Like, is this going to be what everyone thinks it should be?
So we're talking about a lot of kind of dark days right now, and there are a lot of bright days ahead, but I want to circle back to a couple interesting things you said, talking about the people close to you and coaches and loved ones who maybe recommended that you quit. Do you think that it was a lack of faith in you, or do you think it was more so that they just didn't want to see you hurt anymore? Not physically, but hurt from not being able to succeed or continually failing.
I think it was a pattern of what I was doing. I think they weren't seeing the effort maybe behind the scenes with Jeff, or even like with my psychological work that I was trying to do. I was trying not to give up on myself, and I hate the word trying, because
you just do it or you don't.
You do it or you don't. But my effort was there. Like, I was really wanting it badly, but I was kind of stuck in a rut. And I think for a lot of the people that might have thought that or said that, it's just what they've seen year after year coaching or being around athletes. And so it's like, you know what? You need to get on with your life, kid. And can you blame them? No, because maybe they did want the best for me. I've never approached anybody that has said it, or I've heard that have said it and said, like, you know, that really hurt me. What was the purpose of that? I'm just speculating as to why they would say it. And I think it's just because there's a lot of great skaters. I wasn't the best skater. I was just the one that hung in there. So they've seen skaters that were better than me that even just kind of got stuck to in ruts and ended up retiring. But it's like, kid, you got to have a career now. You got to move on. Like, you need something else. This isn't working out for you.
It's that old hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, though, right?
Hey, that's a good one.
I'm full of good ones like that.
I like that.
And then the other thing I wanted to touch on was your first tryout with David, where you guys obviously had chemistry right away. What is the relationship between skaters? Is it like, being siblings? Is it like a marriage? Is it like being teammates? Is it like being best friends? Is it a combination of all of them?
I think at some point, like, depending on your personalities, there's a little bit of everything in there. When I first met him, I really thought he was a great guy. He's known in skating as a funny guy, and I mean, he has a bit of a...
You said he's known as a funny guy, but you didn't say he's funny. So do you think he's funny?
Actually, he does have a funny side. If you know Dave, most people see him as a very serious person, and he's not as social as I am, so he comes across more shy or quiet, or however you perceive that. But when you know him, he can be very funny. We don't need to talk about Dave. This is
but I want to talk about the
sitting here.
The chemistry here.
So but in skating, when we were younger, it was just like Dave was always the funny guy at competitions, and he'd come out during the Parade of Champions, and he'd always like do something goofy, and so he made everyone laugh all the time. So I remember when I first started skating with him, or even in the first tryout that we had, I was like, he's so fun. And he always used to sing songs to like make light of things. But then I also saw him like get mad and kick the ice or kick the boards or whatever. And that was like, whoa, where did that come from? But he's definitely, I will say, more moody than I am.
Fair enough.
And there was a lot of jokes that went back and forth with that. But he is French. I guess I am too.
Passionate people.
He's really French, though. I'm not. Yes, very passionate, expressive.
Right. So it's great that he was able to make it fun, because at the end of the day, if you've had a good day or a bad day, if you're having fun, right, like that keeps you going. Yeah, and in the beginning too, when you're learning, it's still fun. Like it wasn't. Nothing really came hard for us. It got hard. What got hard was trying to be the best.
But when we were first coming together, nothing felt hard. Like I said, the lifts felt easy. The spins were on. Obviously, I started to struggle with my jumps. But again, he tried to make light of those days for me when I was struggling. And he tried. He was, again, trying to understand what I was going through wasn't his norm. It wasn't something he was familiar with. So but he handled it the best he could. And I'd say in general, we had a lot of fun. We told a lot of jokes. And
Is it tough? There's so much pressure to hold yourself accountable, but also, you have to be accountable to your teammate. It's not like a hockey team where there's 5 guys or 6 guys with the goalie on the ice, where if one guy screws up, there's the other guys to cover. Like, if your partner screws up in skating, it kind of brings you both down, right?
Well, and I think that was really hard for Dave because he seriously was always pretty perfect. Like, literally every day we trained, he never missed anything. He never missed a jump. He never missed a spin. He hardly ever missed. In competition, I think he missed... I don't even know if he actually missed a jump ever in competition. We missed a lift once, but I would miss a throw, like fall on a throw or step out of a throw, or I'd single a triple or a double jump. It was always me that missed. Right. So it kind of like made me mad because I'm like, why are you so perfect all the time? Like, why don't you make mistakes? And even in training, I hated it. And it put so much more focus on me. But what was so great about it too was that I could rely on him. He was so solid as a pair skater, but also as a single skater. So I never worried about Dave. Right. But it just it brought more attention on me. Yeah, of course. Do you think it pushed you to be better? Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I'm like, I don't want the spotlight on me anymore. Yeah. And even though pair skating is kind of about the girl in that sense that everyone's watching what she's doing and your positions in the air and about the beauty of the team, right? But no, he definitely pushed me, and that's actually a really good comment because I guess I never really saw it like that, but the competitiveness there would have definitely existed, that I wanted to be like Dave, and I wanted to... So you're not only competing with your opponent, your competition, you're competing partner. Against each other. Was there ever a time where he screwed something up and you weren't mad? You were just kind of like, it's about time you screwed one up. Oh, for sure. And if he ever screwed up when he did... Yeah. Let him have it. Hey? Oh, what was that? I love it. I just love it. But he would get so mad. He was really hard on himself when he'd miss something, and when that was, I got to be like trying to think back to training. Even like he just never missed. Yeah. And if we messed up on a pairs element, he'd get mad or whatever. But we get through it because it's just repetition, right? Just keep working on it. But move on. But going back to the relationships, you start off as friends, and then. Obviously we became a couple, but he was my best friend. Like, I really loved being around Dave and at the time, and he was so, we just had a lot in common. And like you talked about the chemistry too, right? Yeah. Like it was definitely there from the beginning as a pair. And we just had a lot in common. So it was a natural occurring thing for us to become a couple. So let's talk the flip side of the partnership, your teammate. Let's talk about the competition. So I'm going to butcher these guys' names. Sigerlitsi? Yeah. Come on, I want to hear it. Bereznaya and Sigerlitsi. Bereznaya and you said it right. We'll let that go. Just say the Russians. The Russians, exactly. The dreaded Russians, and who had quite the run at the Olympics, right? 40 years or so. Yeah, it was 42 years. 42. Well, Canada hadn't won a gold in 42 years at Paris skating. Yeah. So what was the relationship like there? Did you guys ever converse off the ice, or was it like really big like remnants of the Iron Curtain? Like, we don't even talk to them, we don't look at them. Well, it's funny because we would, you see each other in the hotel during meals, and you'd see them at the rink. We were never on with Russia because they always grouped everybody by country. Obviously, Canada and Russia are really far apart, so we were never on the ice with them. I don't remember really practicing with them until when you get to Worlds, maybe they put the last 4 pairs that are in the last group. Going for top 4, they would put them together, and that was maybe the only time we ever really skated with them. Okay. So, and even in the dressing room, they always had a coach. Elena did. She'd have her coach with her, and they'd be talking, and so there was no engaging of a conversation going on with us. I always wanted it. I never understood why girls don't talk in the dressing room.
So you'd be in the same dressing room,
yes.
but not talking to one another.
Yeah, and
whoa,
the odd time I would get, and the guys, like, I would always joke with the guys because I'm more of a guy's girl that way, and I love sitting with guys and talking about sports and stuff. So I would hear how they're in the dressing room talking about hockey, or they're talking about whatever, and I'd be like, why can't the girls do this? Like, we just sit in the, no one talks. It's like so intense, and they all have to have their coaches in there, and my coach was male, so he never was in there, and I don't know, and I'm thinking, well, maybe for me talking to somebody is intimidating. Like, I don't know why none of the women talk.
Yeah.
But it's like catty, even, like, especially in the ladies' event. Like,
that's so interesting that they would. So you and your partner wouldn't be in the same dressing room?
No, ever, because we're changing, right?
I guess.
I know,
but you're like best friends, whether you're a couple or not a couple. Anyway.
No, it's men's dressing room and the women's dressing room. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever try and engage them at all? Did they speak English?
They're the odd skater. Like, it depended on who was there. If it was an American or another Canadian team, then yes, there was definitely conversation. But if it was Russia or China, they don't even speak English. The Russians, sometimes, not even Elena and Anton only, but some other Russians would pretend they don't speak English. Or maybe they just didn't want to talk to you. I don't know. So it was just it wasn't super friendly.
Right.
And it wasn't even that they were disrespectful with their body language too. It wasn't that at all. It was just that nobody really talked.
Right.
And then you could just feel the competitive, like the intense competitiveness on the ice. And sometimes even, like, I remember even with past Canadians, like, that didn't want you to succeed, and they would purposefully get in your way when it was your turn to do your program. Like, your music would be on, and they know your jumps right there, and they go and, like, do an element there, and you're going, are you kidding me?
Right.
So that kind of
it's kind of like skating onto the other team's side in hockey in the warm up.
Totally.
That kind of thing.
That's a great,
a little bit of gamesmanship, right? Did you ever employ any of those tactics?
I didn't like doing that,
right?
Because I just felt like that's disrespectful, and I didn't want anyone to
just
get
focused
mad at
on
me.
yourself. You got enough to focus on in your own game, right? You don't need to think about their stuff. So then, walk us through your account of 2002 from the medal skate, all the warm up, the crash. Didn't the light go out as well? Like,
holy, you've really done your homework. Okay, so that was the short program, and we were backstage warming up, and we were in this small space, probably 20 feet by 20 feet. Like, it wasn't very big. And we always do some lifts, and then we'll do kind of walk through our jumps, we'll walk through our programs. And
it's just dry land
stuff, yeah. And they always have lighting put up in the ceilings or around the warm-up areas so that when cameras are there, they can light that area to show everybody. And I remember warming up for the short program, and we were towards the end of the pairs event, and we could hear music, like somebody was skating, and we're just jumping around right in our spot, and all of a sudden our light above us like blew up. And I mean, I'm not kidding. Someone had to break open the fire distinguisher, the glass. They had to break it open, and like, it was a huge scene, and they're trying to blow the fire out, and here, like, we were right underneath it. So
this is right before you go to change to start skating.
Yes, right before we go put our skates on, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, is that a sign of bad luck? Like, we were right underneath it, and what is this telling me, right?
Was that before the short or the long?
Short.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was so mentally ready that I had to get that out of my head and just say, no, this is not a sign.
Does it almost...
You're good.
Do you think it almost helps in a way to have that... It goes back to pattern interruption, right?
What?
You're thinking and you're psyching yourself out so much, and then all of a sudden, boom, something happens, and you're no longer focusing on will I, won't I.
Maybe you're right, but I also remember being really scared of it. I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, this is, like, not a good thing.
Right.
And it was a scene. Like, there was a lot of people that came around, and I'm sure the skaters even heard it on the ice. Like, it was a really big scene.
And that was like after 9/11, so everyone's just a little on edge about everything.
You're exactly right. And even the arena wasn't quite full with the audience because the security was so high outside that it took so long for everyone to get into the arena.
Right.
But that's interesting that you go back to that patterning. That might be it. That might have even helped me without realizing it. But then,
how was the short program?
We ended up skating a really great short program, probably one of our best of the season. But we fell in our ending position,
right?
Which was fine.
But, yeah,
it was funny.
Yeah.
Dave was a little mad about it because he needs to be perfect.
Yeah. So it didn't cost you though.
Well, we don't think it cost us, but I mean, we were second, which I always prefer to be the one chasing. I don't like being chased.
Okay, fair enough.
So I thought second was the perfect spot going into the long program. You know, we're right where we want to be. We're not far off point-wise. Like, it's not like they were way ahead of us first, like with the marks, because it was the old system, the 6.0 system. Mm-hmm. And it's not like we had way lesser marks because of the ending. You don't get deducted for a fall on your ending position.
Right.
But being in second for us was perfect. So, yeah. Then we went into the long program just feeling really confident and ready.
And you went back to your old faithful, Love Story?
We went back to Love Story, which was like an old sweater. And a year prior to that, we had 4 continents in that same arena, and we had skated a really great skate. And I remember thinking, well, we got this.
Just repetition. Everything feels the same.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Until the warm-up. Yes, until that warm-up. Oh my gosh. Like, I can't even tell you how embarrassing it is to even talk about it, or how embarrassed I was when it happened, because you know, we always have, even as skaters, we've looked at other ice dancers, for example. They often, because they're so intertwined, they've had collisions because they're so into each other and what they're doing and maneuvering, and all of a sudden, boom, they hit another team, and it happens. Yeah. But with pair skating, you have so much more speed, and you're hand in hand mostly, and gathering a lot of speed. How can you hit someone? Like,
so what happened exactly?
Well, so I'm on the warm-up, and Dave and I finished everything we needed to do, and every time we're on the ice for a warm-up, when we hear 1 minute remaining, I tell him I'm going to go do a double toe loop. But I always do it on the opposite side of where our actual triple is in our program. But I need to do a good double to feel good about going into my program for the triple. It's just my routine. And Dave would skate around and just kind of whatever with his blinders on and just focus. So I went around and one end of the rink, and I saw the Russians coming the other opposite way. But typically when they're gaining the speed that they were gaining, they would come diagonally down the ice and do a triple twist or a lift or whatever. But their pattern changed, and I started doing some footwork going into my double toe, and I purposefully went closer to the judge's side so that they could do their diagonal line. Right. Well, they didn't go on the diagonal line. They did an S pattern. So, and which I didn't know they were going into a throw. Because at one point, at 1 minute remaining, I don't think anybody's really doing anything big at that point, but they were still going into their throw. So they did an S pattern, and I met them on the blue line. And I turned forward from my footwork. Yeah. And I collided right with Anton. Like, full speed. They were full speed. And watching the video is pretty traumatizing still. Like, it's like, are you kidding me? And I remember the next day, I felt like my whole left side was like I ran into a brick wall. Yeah. But we're so lucky, like both of us, all of us actually, well, 3 of us that collided, that nothing major happened. Like, they could have had their legs up in the air, and I could have had a blade right in the...
Yeah, I saw you in half.
Seriously. Yeah. Or in the neck. Yeah. Like anything.
And hockey players crash accidentally all the time and like are out with concussions or broken this. You guys don't even have any gear on. No. Not even a helmet.
Nothing.
And you're going as fast, if not faster, than some of these players.
Well, yeah, because we're trying to gain so much speed to have momentum to execute whatever element we're going into. Yeah. And maybe not faster, but yeah, I would say in
faster than some of those old.
Yeah, for sure. Unless you're on a breakaway, right? But in general, yes. And it knocked the wind right out of me. So I remember being really frightened when I got off the ice. Like, how am I going to skate? Like, this is actually really... I can't breathe very well. My side started to hurt.
Did you feel it? So you felt it? Adrenaline didn't take over and you're like, I'm fine.
No, I got off and my side hurt. Yeah. Not like to the point where I'm like, I need help. Our coach looked at all the team and the medical team and said, she's fine. Because I wasn't bleeding. I wasn't...
definitely shaken up.
I was definitely shaken up, but I was still breathing. I just had the wind knocked out of me on the ice. And you can see that Anton and Dave are over me, and there's a couple pictures that I've seen. And I'm just trying to like get my breath. I'm like sitting there gathering myself. But by the time I got off the ice, got my guards on, and we went to our spot where we waited to skate because we were third. The Russians were second. I had time. So everything kind of happened like... I hate to say it didn't happen for a reason, but when I got off, it was a good thing that we were third. Right. Because I think if I was first, I don't know if I would have gathered myself very well.
Right. I I think you might have. I think with that pattern interruption, I think you would have just been like, we came this far. There's no way we're not doing this. And you would have just snapped to it. I'm sure David would have had the same reaction too, and really helped you gain that confidence back. But
well, it's funny, but Dave really didn't respond. He looked at me and he saw that I was okay enough to be, Jan, our coach Jan, took over, and he just sat there. He untied his skates, and he didn't really say anything to me.
Yeah, he was probably so worried. He was probably scared that you were going to be done, and then everything was going to be done.
Or I think Dave just knew, he trusted.
Yeah.
He trusted that, okay, she's a little hurt, and that scared all of us, but she's breathing, she's okay, let's focus. And I think Dave's just such a good focuser. He's always been good at that. My coach was really good at helping distract me. Like you talk about the pattern thing, my coach was really good about just talking to me about life. And it would take my brain off of, okay, I'm going into the most important competition of my life here, and everything matters. And like he would start talking to me about what's happening at home.
Right.
And
that worked for you.
That worked for me.
Okay, just get your mind off.
Yeah.
So you guys won. Well, you didn't win right away.
Yes,
so explain how that all went down. In your mind, you thought you won after you skated that brilliantly clean, long program.
Yeah, okay. And, we thought for sure, because we knew the Russians had made a mistake, at least one. And then we thought, okay, well, it's always been so close. We've always been rivals, and it was always a matter of a mistake or two. And sometimes it was their turn to win, and sometimes it was ours. And they were hard to beat. The Russians, I'm not going to lie, like they were amazing, and very just so naturally talented. They made everything look so effortless, and I always aspired to be like them. But I'm not them. I don't have their style of skating. But so we just had to work so much harder to do other things better. Do
you think they looked at you and thought the same thing? No.
I don't think so.
That damn Canadian girl can't control herself.
Ask any Russian if they want to be like a Canadian. No, I'm just kidding. But I think just historically the Russians have always been so amazing and beautiful. Like their style is very beautiful.
Right. It flows, everything from their hockey to their skating to all sorts of sports, right?
Exactly. So we knew they'd made a mistake. So when the first marks came up and we saw that we had beat them technically, then we thought we did it. And so that's when we see the reaction and faces in our hands. We're going, oh my gosh, we did it. And then all of a sudden the artistic impression comes up and we're like, what? And then the ordinal number 2 comes up. That means the result. And we were just a bit in shock. And I looked at my coach and I said, it's going to switch, right? Like,
we got this.
We got this.
Yeah.
So it's going to go to number 1 soon. No, that doesn't happen, Jamie.
Yeah.
And we sat there and held our composure and just tried to be like, wow. But it was we were more in shock sitting in I hate this name, the kiss and cry, but that's what they call it. And as soon as we left that area and we went backstage, of course you're facing the media, and I remember just breaking down going like, how has this happened?
Right. Well, it's such a break from like incongruency, right? Like you guys felt like in your gut you knew like that instant, like that it's the same systems that you knew when you were 7 that you wanted to skate. You knew that you had won. So when something defies that, you're like, what is going on? You struggle to make a connection there. Yeah, it didn't make sense.
It did not make sense, and we're going, they have completely fixed this. Like the Russians clearly made a mistake, and then we started hearing from other people that they were really they weren't totally on. He fell out of his jump, and her throws were a little
Had you seen their program?
I hadn't.
Oh, okay.
We heard the audience reacting. And then even afterwards, like normally, they'd have a standing ovation, or it would just be we wouldn't hear a peep the whole time except applause. But we heard like, ooh.
And is that because you didn't want to watch, or because you weren't allowed to?
You don't want to watch.
Right.
I'm not this competitor that could watch because, again, you can hear it anyway. You hear the music, you hear the crowd reaction, but it's really about focusing on what your job is backstage and trying to just stay in tune with yourself. But and then we started hearing things, and next thing I know, we're at the Canada House, and everybody's talking about this controversy, and CBC was, and when we did our skate of, like, after you get your medals, they make us do a lap around the rink and everything, and
make us do, not get to do.
Well, for pictures, yeah. skate around now and pretend you're happy.
Yeah.
No, and so because I felt like the hardest part for me was that I had visualized standing on the podium singing "O Canada" with everyone back at home for the whole year leading up. Yes, I visualized the perfect skate, but I visualized seeing our flag and having it in the middle and singing "O Canada." So if people talk about being robbed, like that we were robbed of that, I robbed of the medal, I go, no, you know what I was robbed of? That moment.
Yeah.
Because as a Canadian, we're so not outwardly patriotic. I think we are, because we get really behind our athletes, especially during the Olympics, and we support it. We love being Canadian, but we're not like rah, rah, rah and loud and obnoxious.
Yeah.
But that is really special for a lot of Canadians, and we all get emotional when we see a Canadian on the podium and like winning a gold.
Yeah, because that's the one time we're kind of allowed to just break free, right? When it comes to sports.
Exactly. And you know, truthfully, we're not there a lot, right? Like, and we're a lot smaller country, so it's a lot harder for us. But I'm speaking for skating, especially, we're not there hardly ever, except on a Grand Prix
42
circuit.
years.
42 years. So if there's a moment or anything that was robbed of, it was that moment.
Yeah.
And I don't care about the color of the medal per se. I mean, of course, it's nice to have the gold medal now, but it's that memory that I wanted.
Yeah.
And that feeling, and anybody that's been there can relate. That feeling of standing there and like, you know, just
Did you see any parallels to this most recent Oscars with La La Land and Moonlight?
Oh my gosh!
Did you see that?
Oh my gosh!
Did you think back to your moment when you saw that?
I did it, but that's actually really interesting. You just said that. Like, yeah, you know what? How similar was that?
Right.
Oops, we've made a mistake.
Yeah, just kidding. You guys can come up now. You actually won.
So what happened that night after our long program was the French judge that was on our panel. This is a very convoluted story. It goes so much further than any of us even really need to know. There's so many more layers of really negative involvement that we had no idea about with mafia and stuff like this. So there was a bit of a trade-off, and I'll just give you Cole's notes. Trade-off with the ice dance and the pairs. So ice dance, they wanted the French team to win. In the pairs, they wanted the Russian to win, and it was a fix.
Yeah.
But they didn't have a Russian judge in the ice dance, in the pairs. So they used the Russian or the French judge to vote for the Russian.
When you say they wanted to, who wanted them?
Well, again, it was this group that got together and said, we're all going to vote for the Russians. We're all going to put the Russians first. Right.
Was that a Russian contingent, or was that?
Yeah, Russian, French.
It was like I'll scratch your back if you.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. And then, so in the ice dance, they had a Russian judge, I believe. I can't remember exactly the logistics, but it was just a trade-off. Yeah. So what happened was our Canadian judge, he knew that this was happening going into the Olympics, but he chose not to say anything. She told him at the Grand Prix final, before we went to Olympics, that she was being told to vote for the Russians, but because she loved the Canadians and she loved him, he was French.
Everyone loved you guys, right?
Well, but she thank you, but she loved, he was French Canadian, and she really loved him. Yeah. And I mean, not that way, but she thought he was a great guy, and she liked Canadians in general. And she used to say, like, your team is so great and everything, but I feel terrible. And she actually confessed.
Yeah. She couldn't bear it.
Well, probably with liquid courage in her too, but really? At the judges at some kind of judges gala. But anyway, so she does this, and he's like, "What?" So he goes into the Olympics knowing he's got to keep his mouth shut, because if he talks, they're going to make sure he's not on the panel. Right. He never said anything. This whole thing went down. He makes her. She tries to leave for the medal ceremony. He grabs her by the arm. And he says, "You sit down and watch what you just did." Yeah. So he made her sit there, and she's sitting there like really perched and kind of upright. And I remember seeing videos of her, and I'm sure it was so uncomfortable. But she left after the whole thing was done, went back to the hotel, and some colleagues were sitting there going, "What did you guys do?" And I guess she just totally confessed. Yeah. And then that's how it all happened. So the next day, right away, and like you had Rosie O'Donnell, who wouldn't take off the Canadian garb because I want the Canadians to get this medal. You had Larry King talking about us. You had Jay Leno. We were on his show twice. Time magazine. Everybody was talking about it. It was everywhere. We couldn't go anywhere in Salt Lake. Americans were wearing Canadian garb. It was crazy.
And what were you thinking all this time? Like, did you know that there was a controversy
Well,
yet?
we'd already heard, because
Yeah.
CBC French had told Dave when we were doing that, when they make us skate around, they had told Dave that there was something going on with the judging, like there was a scandal.
Right.
So we got word of it instantly. So then days later, it took 6 days, and we were basically told, meet us back at the village, the athletes' village, with your medals, and there'll be someone there to pick them up, and you guys are going to be awarded a gold medal, and there's going to be a ceremony at the arena, and it was all for television. Yeah. It wasn't at all how David and I would.
Let's redeem ourselves. Yeah. Let's give them the celebration.
No judges.
Yeah.
Not bringing them back in. Mm-hmm. It was more, and of course the Chinese didn't want to be there. Like, how awkward is this?
So they got bumped up to silver.
No, nobody ended up getting a silver.
So you just swapped yours for gold.
Yeah.
Did they have to go make extras, or did they?
They would have made an extra set for sure. But that night was really, really uncomfortable, because not only were the Russians not impressed with what was going on. I mean, can you blame them? No, I guess. But we weren't being whiners about it. We weren't complaining. We were, we had to do a media. We had to do media interviews every single day, and we would just sit there and make light of it. Yeah. And Dave even would say, like he'd make jokes. And then when we were told we were getting a gold medal, he's like, we just need a bronze now to get the set. Like, we were just trying to make light of it. And the Russians weren't impressed with that. And it was really too bad. Yeah. And, next thing we knew, though, we signed a 4-year deal with Stars on Ice with them. Oh, no way. So it was like, not that we were rivals, but we were never enemies. Right. We respected them. We actually, I loved their skating, but we just didn't have a friendship. So now it's like, you now need to be intimately touring together. Intimate meaning on a bus, in the dressing room, full time. You're living together for 3 months straight. You're doing 64. Actually, we did 84, I think, cities
in 1 year.
No, in 4 months.
In 4 months.
Yeah, 4.5 months. Yeah, it was a lot. So we got quite close, and you know what? They were a great couple, and I learned that Anton was actually quite funny as well. And
so you got to know them after that.
Yeah. So, but at the Olympics it was tough, and I think it was just, we ruined the plan. Like, we ruined the way things were supposed to be executed, and we weren't supposed to skate so well, and they weren't supposed to make any mistakes, and that's the biggest thing. If they would have been perfect, everything would have been not talked about.
But you know what? It's interesting. When it's the right thing, that always seems to win out, And you didn't need to say anything. You didn't need to whine about it, because everyone knew that what the right thing was to do. So everyone championed your cause, right?
Yeah, and I think in general, there are athletes, though, that when they don't get what they deserve or whatever, that sometimes they'll cry about it, or they'll say, I got robbed, or this isn't fair. Like, some athletes have historically spoken out about that.
It's hard not to. It's because it's all about owning it, right? You have to be responsible and take ownership. And
you do. But at that point, we're going, well, we came here to do our job, and we did it. So we have a silver medal, and Dave's mom said, you know what? It's not silver, it's platinum. Well, guess what happened? We said that in an interview, and 4 days later, we have a platinum medal delivered to our rooms. Each of us. Like, a real platinum medal. A small one. Yeah. But, like, worth a fortune. And
so someone sent that as, like, condolences? Yes. That's amazing.
So anything we talked about, we'd literally get sent to us. It was so funny. I'm like, well, I really like Mercedes.
Yeah. It's like, I wish we would have won Mercedes instead. So the skate, again, this comes back to the performing versus competing. How different was that skate, Stars on Ice touring versus the competing? Was it more relaxed? Was it more enjoyable? Or was it less so because it wasn't that competition aspect?
Well, there's still a bit of a competition aspect, because we expect a lot of ourselves as professionals, and we always wanted to be better. It wasn't that we fell into a comfort place of, we're pros now and we can just coast through this and collect our paychecks every month or whatever. It was about how we can keep improving. Right. We were only amateurs for 4 years, and we felt so fortunate that we had the amateur career we did, and had the story now behind us to allow us to have such a successful touring gig with Stars on Ice. I mean, this was a tour that we had dreamt about being with our whole lives, and here we are with skaters like Christy Yamaguchi and Kurt Browning, and Scott Hamilton was a part of it for a bit, and like Katarina Witt. It was amazing. It was so cool. And but I think it wasn't about being comfortable. It was about competitive. And I remember Dave, we had 3 throws every night in the show, 1 in each program and 1 in the opening, and it was a big deal if we missed one.
Oh, okay.
And when we started missing, it was like, what's wrong with us? Like, that's where the competitiveness was still there. And of course the Russians were there, so it was like, well, our applause was louder than theirs tonight, like, I want to be better. I want to have a better program. I want, it wasn't even that it was malicious. It was just that I want to be better.
Well, really high-end athletes, I think, no matter what they end up going into, always have that competitive drive, whether it's a new sport or just a new aspect of your sport. Even if it's, card games or bowling down the line or tennis. I know we have some pretty intense family tennis matches out at the lake.
Yes, you do.
Nobody wants to lose.
You do. It's ingrained in us, right?
Absolutely.
It's ingrained in the fabric of sport, and it's ingrained in us, and it never really goes away.
So when you stopped skating, what have you found that has kind of replaced that competition? What have you substituted that for in your life?
You know what, Shane? I don't think I'll ever replace it. I'm a mom of 2 kids now, and it's not about an applause anymore, and it's not about how, of course I'm always wanting to be a better person, but life throws us curveballs sometimes, and it's how you react to things. So I guess I can see it like, how well am I handling things in my life, but it's not about being competitive anymore. And I'm 40 now, so it's really hard. I go into the gym, for example, and I want to do the things that I used to do without pain or without being out of breath, but I just can't. And so I've literally had to talk myself of, it's not about that you're not as good, it's just that you have to accept that you're getting older,
right? And
that you aren't capable physically of being the competitor you were. Your best is going to be this today. And so it's about just setting different kind of goals. I'm kind of in between right now too, because I really want to have something else. I do have other things that I do, but I'm full-time mom. Obviously, I wanted to be at home with the kids until they're at least in full day school. But I do want something else. I've always said to Craig that I need that for myself. I think I'm a better person when I have goals and I'm focused on something.
I think everyone is.
I think so. That's all I know too, is to have something to work towards, to be successful at. But will I ever feel that same level again? Probably not. I love being a mom. I've always wanted to be a mom, so I'm so happy right now being that.
Right. Just enjoying the moment.
I am
which
enjoying
is super
it.
Important.
Yeah, and it's gone like this. I mean, my son's 10 already, and it feels like just, a few years ago that we were touring with him as a baby. But I don't think I'll ever feel what I felt as an athlete. But is that important? I don't think so.
It's just different.
It's just different.
So, I mean, you're 40. Your life isn't even half over, and you've already accomplished so much. What goals are you striving towards in the future? Like, do you know what that thing is yet? That other thing, or are you still kind of searching while you're doing the mom thing?
I think I'm always going to be searching, but while I'm in the moment, I'm trying to do things that I'm passionate about. And one thing I'm involved with is Special Olympics. Ever since I was a little girl, I used to have a thing for people with Down syndrome, and I was always gravitated to them. And it wasn't because they were weird or different but I just found them unique and special, and tried to figure them out even at times. And I don't know why, I just always wanted to. I told my mom I was going to work with people with Down syndrome when I was a kid, and here I am as an adult working with Special Olympics. I'm on the national board. I was on the Alberta board for 3 years, and I love it. It fills up my bucket. Every time I'm around these athletes, they bring me back to being that 7-year-old when it was really, really only about the pure love of sport.
Right.
It wasn't about now the consequences or the, what happens if you don't win. It was just about, I love this. And they're so appreciative for the little things in life that really do matter. So they bring me back. They kind of keep everybody grounded, right?
Right, yeah, I'm sure.
Stop
Appreciative.
sweating the small things, or don't cry over things that won't cry over you.
Yeah.
And so right now, that is my biggest, the biggest passion that I'm involved with. I do have other things that I get invited to, whether it's public speaking or hosting events. But I find that enough right now.
Yeah.
But yes, maybe you can help me.
Well, I think most people know I'm a big advocate of chasing what makes you happy and what you're curious. A good friend and a guest of mine, Kaylor Betts, said, don't pursue your passion, pursue what you're curious about. Pursue what you just, that desire to really satisfy that curiosity of trying new things and continuing to learn, peeling back the onion layers of whatever new pursuit you're in. And that's really awesome that you're getting a chance now at this stage to work with these people. So what does that look like on a day-to-day basis, or week to week, or month to month?
Yeah, so I don't have something week to week. It's when there is an event, I'm there if I can be, obviously, unless I'm away. But I've been to 2 World Games now. I was just the honorary coach for the winter team in Austria in February. That was really spectacular. Best trip of my life. As a non-athlete, of course. Right. But it was just so inspiring to see these athletes and the sportsmanship that they showed and camaraderie that they had was so incredibly moving and inspiring. And Craig and I were in LA for the Summer Games a couple of years ago now, and obviously national games I'll go to. We have a lot of local stuff too that I like to participate in. But again, my kids, their activities and events come first. So
of course.
I try to have a good balance. For me, it's really about finding that balance. And I like my kids to be involved. My son loves coming to these events now, and he gets it.
Yeah.
Because we talk a lot about bullying. I was bullied as a kid growing up in Red Deer, and it was really hard for me. I was different being an athlete. How bad is that? And now with social media, I feel terrible for kids today because I was bullied just at a school level. And
right. Within earshot, literally.
That's it.
Now it's on mobile and online.
Yeah, and it's so cruel. And so what I'm teaching him is that, there are kids in schools too that have intellectual disabilities or people know them as learning disabilities. And I said, don't ever make fun of these kids. They can't help it. This is how they're born. And so he gets that now, and he's already had to defend some kids that are made fun of for whatever reason. And I'm proud of that because I said, you know what, Jesse, whether it might not even need to be an intellectual disability or somebody that has Down syndrome that someone's made fun of. It could be just like I was made fun of. And I said, that's not acceptable. Right. So I'm trying to teach him that, but also showing him what the Special Olympic athletes do to everybody. I always tell everyone, come to one event and you'll be hooked for life. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's important to know that not only is it something that they can't help, but every one of them has something to offer other people, right? You've got to look at it in a different light, right? Whether it's just seeing their approach to life in a more simplified way, and you're like, damn, they're happy. Why can't I be that happy? I got to stop thinking of all the bullshit. I've just got to focus on one thing at a time. That's exactly it. You can learn so much from these athletes and the way they respond, the way they talk, the way they feel, the way they show their passion, everything. And that is always what people take out of seeing an event. That's a really good point. Yeah. So I want to ask a couple questions just to wrap up here because I've taken far too much of your Sunday afternoon. What has been your favorite place to travel to while skating or even not skating? And also, what place surprised you the most? Oh, come on. You could have given me that question before. I would say my favorite place to travel to would be Japan. Yeah. I like the culture. You've been there a few times, right? I've been 13 times. Okay, more than a few. Baker's dozen. Yeah. Baker's dozen. There you go. Yeah, I just love it there. I like everything about it. The culture, the food, the audiences were always really good. That would be my favorite place to skate, probably, besides Canada, because we have the best audiences, and I'm not kidding. Yeah. Canadians are very knowledgeable and very passionate about their skaters, but Japan was just so beautiful and different, right? Nice culture. But I would say something that would be surprising. Did you go to a place where it was lesser known and you're like, I don't know, and then it just totally shocked you and the people were great or the food was fantastic? Anything jump out at you? Nothing's jumping out, but... Where was the most obscure place you ever traveled to? I think the hardest place, I'll talk about a challenging place, and we never ended up competing because Dave got food poisoning, was Russia. Yeah. Suspect. We were in suspect. I wonder what happened. I wonder. Yeah. No, seriously, Have you seen Icarus? No. Oh, you gotta watch Icarus. Okay, we get there and we're in St. Petersburg, which is beautiful. Like, it's different. Everything about it is very different. But yeah, I mean, he got food poisoning and we never even ended up competing. The funniest part about that trip was our coach used to wear these white like socks, and he packed a brand new pack from the store, and there was 6 in there, and he kept losing them, and he'd see the maid wearing these white socks after a few days. Like, oh gosh, you know what? You should just give them to her.
Yeah. Did he ask her?
No. He just...
Those are nice socks.
Yeah.
She must have big feet.
Well, he was a little guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's funny. I can't think of or recall a place that was shocking or that we weren't... There's been some tourist stops that we thought, what kind of town is this?
Yeah.
And then we actually... Bakersfield was one.
Oh, okay.
It's funny that Dylan ended up being there. Or not Bakersfield, sorry.
OKC?
Yes.
Oklahoma City, yeah.
No.
Where else?
College.
Oh, North Dakota.
North Dakota.
Oh,
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. What's the town called now? I can't recall.
This is great.
Anyway, that's okay.
But that was one city where Dylan was that I remember we woke up going, where are we? And and we got to the arena. It was this brand new, beautiful arena. We're like, holy, what is this doing here, right? There's been some cities like that.
Yeah.
But no, I can't think of a country that I've been to where I wasn't impressed.
Just too many good ones. Too many good ones out there then. So other than any skating accomplishments, what are you most proud of? What do you look back in your life and think...
other than skating?
Other than skating, yeah.
Oh, being a mom, for sure.
Your kids?
Yeah, and just because I'm so in love with being a mom, and I'm so proud of them for the kids that they're turning into, and they're becoming these young little people, and
they're real now. They're not
real.
Just things that like excrete stuff.
And
they have personalities.
Totally, and how they're reacting to people, and the comments that I get about how polite they are, or just respectful, and that makes me proud. But I know even just delivering them how proud I was.
Yeah,
I know.
Well, I think that pride in them probably comes back to the ownership of your accountability to yourself, right? Everything that you see out of them is a reflection of a job well done by you. I think so. That's probably...
I don't think I'm a great parent at times, but thank you. That must be it. Yes.
I don't know.
Look how good of a job I'm doing. My kid's turning out perfect.
No. But it's like when you do a job well done, you're proud of it, right? You're like, I did the best I could. Yeah. And so when you see that out of your kids, I'm sure it's a similar feeling. And
he's a goalie. So when he gets scored on, I had nothing to do with it. It's not a parent thing.
Not my responsibility.
No.
All right, Jamie. Well, I've taken up a lot of your Sunday here, and I see your shirt says "I love Sundays," so I'm going to let you get back to yours. But thanks so much. We'll have to do a follow up. I've got so many other things I wanted to ask you about. We didn't talk about commentating. We didn't talk about the 2018 Korea Olympics. There's lots of things, but we got time.
I would love that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. See you later. As always, guys, thank you so much for listening. I really hope that I brought you some joy, entertainment, value, whatever it is. I hope you're getting it. Go follow Jamie on Twitter at Jamie Salé or on Instagram, JRSalé21. See you next week.